Hello, you beautiful souls. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
It's so good to be back. And Mon and I thought that we would speak into such a beautiful topic. It's a beautiful but vulnerable topic, and we feel that everyone can relate in one way or another, male, female, any gender, if you align with a gender or not. And that is food and body image. And there's such a demand to look a certain way, especially for women, but I even notice it with men as well. Like I notice it with my teenage boy, having to look big and restrict foods or specifically eat a certain amount of foods. And we thought that we would really speak into our own journeys and what that's really looked like for us. So I know for myself, I wasn't modeled as a child any healthy eating habits or patterns at all. Actually, I grew up with a mom who has brain damage, so it was kind of like a quick and easy fix for meals for us. So majority of the time, it was just packet foods and processed foods and lots of chips and lollies and lots of soda and fizzy drink and all of that kind of stuff, which was just available. So I feel like for me, as a little girl, I really, because I wasn't modeled what healthy eating is or organic foods, I actually do remember my mum saying, "Oh, that's really expensive. Put that back." Whether that be some sort of like organic food that I wanted, which was interesting, right? Because I was just a child, and I actually remember I wanted these organic carrots this once. I don't know why. It's like, can we get these bag of carrots? Like $4 bag of carrots back then was like really expensive. And she was like, no, that's really expensive. And what it did is it conditioned me to believe or to not believe anything really about food. So as I grew up, I kind of just, like, I remember that my mum never taught me how to cook. So I taught myself how to cook like at the ages of a teenager when I left home. And for me, that was pretty much just the cheaper food that I could get my hands on. Like I had no idea about like grass fed meat and cows and organic chickens or cage free eggs, for example. So I would just buy like the cheapest foods. And over the years, I noticed, like, now that I eat pretty much organic foods, like I've noticed a huge difference in my energy levels, in my mindset, in my relationship with food, and the difference that it makes on our bodies when we eat organic foods and we eat more nutritious foods, right? And I do remember saying that there's like no such thing as good and bad foods. Food's the food, right? But like Mon and I were just having a discussion about, specifically there's not good or bad, but I really do believe that there is healthy and unhealthy foods. There really is. Like some of the things that they put in foods is really fucking bad for us, right? We shouldn't be eating it. We shouldn't be drinking it. An
Mhm.
instant, a really beautiful example of this was I did a lot of research back when I was doing bodybuilding because obviously I used to track my foods and binge and restrict, eat specific foods, and would have to eat a certain amount of protein, a certain amount of carbs, and a certain amount of fats to be able to either A, gain muscle, gain body fat to be able to grow muscle, or B, shred it all down for stage and for a show. Um, and I remember looking into cow's milk, and cow's milk is designed for cows, right? Cows have full stomachs. Cows are born with full stomachs. So, therefore, when you drink cow's milk and we are processing it in one stomach, what do you think's happening? Our human bodies are not designed to process cow's milk. A baby calf processes this 3 times before it is consumed. And I remember learning that, and I stopped drinking cow's milk myself. I couldn't convince my children, and that's okay. That's their journey, right? But just simple little things like this, taking these things out of my diet was I found really helpful for me. However, it opened up a can of worms with many other aspects and areas of foods as well. Like, for example, when I was doing my certificate for, I think it was in PT, we were learning about health, or it might have been a food nutrition course that I was doing. We learned that in almond milk, for example, there's only like 3% almonds in that milk. And I think, like, what else, all of these other additives that's inside that? And it's really interesting because we're not taught these things, but we're also not taught what a binge and restrict cycle looks like, which what comes after a binge and restrict cycle or an eating disorder of some sort is body image relationship issues. And I know for me that being in the bodybuilding industry, I developed severe body dysmorphia and bulimia. And I'm not saying that being in the bodybuilding industry was what caused that. Absolutely not. But it was my mindset and it was the conditioning around not knowing anything about foods or not being taught anything about foods or the conversations that people around me were having. Like, it was just completely normalized. And for myself, I struggled and still do at some point my whole life with eating disorders, or binge and restrict, or body image issues. And I trust that you can speak into that as well, Mom.
Yeah, and I don't think that it's just by chance that we can both relate so deeply to the issues we've had with food and our body image.
Mm.
And I'm yet to meet a single woman that hasn't struggled with food or her body image. And I grew up in a family of 4 girls. So we had 5 women in our house growing up, and I had a sister with anorexia. I had a sister that, like, hardly ate. I had a sister that overconsumed and became overweight and then lost all her weight. Like, I have seen it all, and I myself have been on such a huge journey of, like, being controlled by food and then honestly learning how to heal that. And when I grew up, I it was quite different in our family. Like, we always had home cooked meals. And my mum always packed my lunches. Like, my parents kind of had control of what I ate. And I remember, like, all the junk food or the packaged food was always hidden away at, like, the top of the pantry where you couldn't reach it. So I started to be like, "Oh, that's naughty and that's bad and that's wrong, that food." And when I moved out of home, so at the age of 18, before that, I had never really thought about food, struggled with my relationship with food and my body. I hadn't had any of that. But when I moved out, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have freedom to eat all the foods that mum had been hiding from me." And I started to, like, overconsume and gain weight, and I didn't really understand what was happening either. I was like, "Oh my gosh, why am I putting on so much weight?" And also, like, caramel slice is fucking amazing, right? So you're like
Yes.
yeah, so you're, like, gaining all this weight, but you're not educated on food. I also, like you, Danny, I wasn't taught how to make food in terms of, like, home-cooked meals. I was, like we always did baking at home growing up and made, like, chocolate biscuits and cakes and slices, but I was never taught how to, like, cook a steak or make a roast or make these really nutritious meals. And so when I moved out of home, I honestly ate, like, two-minute noodles and tuna and rice or
Pretty die.
biscuits. Yeah, biscuits, chips, lollies, like, all of those things that were quick, convenient, very nutrient poor, like yeah, and I can really hold space for myself in that time right now because I had no idea about nutrition, and I actually didn't understand the importance of it. Right, like 95% of the serotonin, like our feel good hormone, like the ability to feel fucking good, 95% of our serotonin hormone is released from our gut. So that's the food we're eating.
Our gut has its own brain.
Yeah, it's such a huge piece.
Mm.
And we're not taught that. And so when I started to like it's so interesting because when I left home at 18 and I started to eat this way, I also started to struggle with depression. And I know that the depression was from things that had happened in my childhood, but I also feel that it was made worse from my diet and what I was consuming. And as I consumed more, probably about a year later, I started to become so consumed with like critical thoughts of my body. I was like, my body's disgusting. I need to hide my body. I'm overweight now. I don't want to see anyone I used to hang out with. I'm like, I'm not enough. I'm terrible, because my whole worth I placed on my body and how it looked. And that took me into a spiral of so many things. Like I would do like juice cleanses. Then I would like binge in darkness. Then I would like go and buy junk food but hide it in my trolley because I was shaming myself so much. Then I would restrict myself. I'd try fasting. I'd try intermittent fasting. I honestly did so many different things. I did a bodybuilding competition, and like you, Dani, I tracked my macros. And the whole time, all I was trying to do was change my body so that I felt like I was enough.
Mm.
And our relationship with food and our relationship with our body is a mirror of our relationship with ourselves. So at the time, I was really struggling with my relationship with myself. Like,
The
yeah,
hard thing about that, sister, is like we don't even know that we're doing it, right? We don't even know that we're struggling with a relationship with ourselves or a relationship with food or specifically a relationship with our body. Like it just happens.
yeah, it does. And it's kind of like, it's so normalized, because when I look back at the time, like where I was when I was struggling with my relationship with food, I was surrounding myself with people that were normalizing it as well. So
Mm,
like I was around women that felt the same in their body,
mm,
that didn't have like high self-worth, that were critical towards their bodies, that always consumed like foods that didn't align with them. They complained about the foods they were eating. They complained about the foods they weren't eating. They overate. They judged themselves. Like that is the environment I was in.
mm.
They hated their bodies. And you are a product of your environment. You really are. And like when I started to look at my relationship with food, I went like right back to my childhood, like right back to my childhood. And from a very young age, Dani, like so young, I was not taught to emotionally regulate. I was taught to consume food to close my stress cycle and create safety in my body.
Stop crying and I'll give you this lolly.
Yeah.
Just think about it. Oh my gosh, it just unlocked something within me then. I remember getting my ears pierced, and the same with my kids because both my boys had their ear pierced when they chose to. I don't think they have now. Actually, my oldest boy does. Anyway, it's not important. But I remember, like, as soon as you would cry for the pain, you would then go, "Oh, here you go. You can have a lollipop now. Have the lollipop now.
Mhm.
Put that in your mouth, and it's going to be okay."
Yeah.
Condition
And
your brain and your mind
yeah.
to get that instant serotonin hit, that instant sugar hit, and it's a wow.
Yeah. And so like then you become an adult, right? And you have a really hard day at work and your stress cycle is open. And you
Mhm,
do the exact same thing you were taught to do as a child, but you don't even realize you were doing it as a child. And you
mhm,
give yourself food to close that stress cycle and create safety in your body.
mm,
Like it's the same thing, but often we're so young that we don't even realize it's happened. And we're like, why am I doing this as an adult? And it's like, no, you've actually been doing it pretty much your whole life.
yeah,
Like our whole lives, most homes did not know how to teach their children how to regulate their emotions. They knew how to shut down their emotions through external things. And
mm,
food is a huge one of those.
yeah,
And like I also remember there was this time and I was maybe like, I think I was 7 or 8, and I can even remember the shop. This vivid, it's such a vivid memory. I was in the shop and my mum was like buying herself clothes, and my mum never really bought herself clothes. She never prioritized her needs or spoiled herself. And it's something that I've really had to work through myself. And my mum was buying herself some clothes. And you know how when you're little, you like go in the changing room with your mum? So I like went in the changing room with my mum and she's like getting changed into clothes, and she like put on one outfit and she's like, oh, she said something about her stomach. She's like, my stomach is disgusting. And she tried on like 3 or 4 outfits. And I have so much compassion for her because I care about her so much. And I just want only love for her and for her to feel that for herself. I feel sad speaking into this. But,
Mm,
every outfit she tried on, she was like, "I'm disgusting. This is disgusting. I don't like it." And I remember walking out and her being like, "I'm not buying anything." And I was like, "Oh, mom." And then I see that pattern showed up for me as well. I did that to myself. I remember going shopping and trying on stuff and be like, "Oh, yuck. This is disgusting.
mm.
I'm not buying that."
I just remembered a memory. My mum bought this beautiful, like little black silk skirt with this matching black silk top. And it showed like a bit of her midriff and in her, like her stomach. And I remember that she bought it and she wore it, and we were crossing the road, and this car and full of guys were like beeping the horn and yelling out something, and my mum just started like attacking them like verbally and was just like, how dare you say that about my body? And then the guys yelled out like, we shouldn't dress like that, you slut. And my mum never wore that outfit ever again.
Wow.
And it was fucking sexy. It wasn't lingerie. It was sexy. It was beautiful. She looked like a goddamn goddess in that outfit.
Mhm.
And because of her brain damage, she wasn't able to, and her own conditioning as well, but she wasn't able to look at that and go, oh, that's their problem, and I'm not going to feel devalidated or anything, allow that to be a part of my low self-worth, right? Whereas she took that as, oh, we can never do that again, which ultimately conditioned
Mm.
me to go, okay, well, if you get that attention, you've got to stop doing that or stop wearing that, and etc. So I remember when I was a teenager, so I started developing breasts very young. I was in year 5 and got teased because I had boobs. I remember some of the girls were just like, "Oh my god, you wear tissues in your bra." And one day I flashed them, and I was like, "No, I don't. I'm not even wearing a bra."
Whoop, whoop.
Woo! Little boppers coming out. And I remember like walking with my mum, because my mum was a young mum as well. We'd like walk, we walked everywhere because she never had a car. And I remember walking with my mum and always getting honks and beeps and men yelling out things in cars. Like, and I then developed this hatred towards like, I can't even wear this and you're going to yell stuff out at me. But then some of the girls at school would be like, well, you shouldn't wear that. All these little comments were made, and it's like I would think to myself, but what's wrong with wearing this? Like, I love short skirts. Like, there's nothing wrong with this.
Yeah, I resonate with that. And that's a piece that me and you have both moved through
Mm,
is allowing attention from men and feeling safe to receive that attention from men, and also not making it bad or wrong, or like not making yourself bad and wrong in those moments.
yeah.
And I growing up, I had a lot around like clothing I would wear because my dad had 4 girls, right? So very protective. And I remember when I started going out to parties and stuff, like I'd come out in like dresses and he would be like, "You're not going out in that." And he'd be like, "You look like a slut. You can't wear that."
Mm,
And obviously my dad's just trying to protect me.
mhm,
But he's like, "You can't go out in that." And he was like telling me that guys only want sex. Like there was a lot of fear installed in me, in my body,
mm.
around like wearing too revealing clothing. And it's been such a beautiful flow. And this is so cool because I'm in this phase right now of like rebirthing the way I look. And it
Woo!
yeah, so I bought myself some new clothes the other day. And my like keyword of like what I wanted was like sexy. Like I just want sexy and I want to feel like my clothes express how I feel internally, but on the outside. And so I was just looking through all these sexy clothes and I was just like getting online, obviously, but I was just like getting things that I feel really beautiful and hot in.
Mm,
And in the past, I wouldn't have bought some of the items that I brought because I would have been too scared to wear them in public based on the perceptions of what other people would think.
mm.
But now that I feel so safe and secure in my body and I understand projections and I understand myself and like I value myself and I know what I want and I know who I am, I feel safe to wear what the fuck I want to wear.
Oh, I'm so proud of you. That is
And
incredible. Wow.
yeah.
Such a beautiful place to get to.
Mhm.
I was the opposite. So I rebelled. I was just like,
Mhm.
fuck you, I'm going to wear whatever the fuck I want, and I'm never going to allow it not to happen. So I'd buy like these extravagant, always have been extravagant outfits. And Like, I've still got clothes in my cupboard from when I was, like, 16 that I love and I never won't get rid of because I fucking love them and I honor them and I wear them so
Yeah.
but, yeah, and I would wear these outfits, but I would get a lot of attention and I fucking hated it.
Mm.
However, even if I wore pajamas to the shops, I would still get attention. So I got to this place where I was like, well, no matter what I wear and what I do, I'm getting this attention for whatever reason. So I'm going to wear whatever the fuck I want to wear. If I want to wear heels to the corner shop, then I'm going to wear heels to the corner shop. However, I never felt comfortable in my body to actually wear them. Even
Mm.
though I would wear them, I would still be so self-conscious. Like, I would look in the mirror and I'd quickly suck my stomach in, or I'd be like, "Oh," I would, like, consistently body shame myself even when I was wearing the things that I loved and I wanted to feel amazing in. But now, today, I can wear anything literally, and my stomach is out and I fucking love it. I'm like, "Wow, what a goddess." But God, it took a lot of work to get there, right, sis?
Yeah, and I admire that about you. Like I love the clothing that you wear and your jewelry and like your sex appeal and your beauty. I absolutely love it and how much you embrace it.
Mm,
It really inspires me.
thank you.
And I think with that too, like there's because I feel like the space I'm in is so secure in my body. But if I have moments where I feel insecure, I'm able to catch them. So
Mm,
I'm so aware, and when those thoughts come up or those voices come up, I know they're not me and my truth, and I can hold myself through them. And it's knowing that it's not this, not you're like you're going to get to this place and you're like, I only have positivity and love towards my body 24/7 and I am so secure all the time. Like that's not really realistic. I still have days where I'm like, my stomach doesn't look good in this, but I'm gonna wear it anyway and I'm gonna hold myself and like love myself and be with those thoughts and feel them and write them down in my journal and see what's there in my shadows. And
mm,
it's just knowing that it's a forever evolving journey that gets to get deeper if you want it to.
I really feel like, I just got this download then, because sometimes I see like my teenage daughter wearing like a lot of like oversized baggy things that, like that she went through a phase where she literally only bought men's clothes and boys' clothes. And I didn't quite understand it. I now know that a part of that was not just because she wanted to wear men's clothes. I mean, she did say that it was comfortable, but a part of that had to do with the way that she was feeling about her body at that time. Because being a beautiful girl and having a societal normal figure, she would get that attention like I did, and she didn't like it. So the way that she would express that was to wear all these oversized clothes. Whereas myself, when I was younger, and still to this day, whenever I've had like a moment where I've had shame and judgment towards my body, which has been pretty much my whole life until the last maybe 12 months or so. But I would still wear the clothes anyway.
Mm.
And I feel like I was doing this subconsciously, but it was still allowing me to step the fuck into my magic and my power anyway. And I used to get so many girls, oh my gosh, so many girls like complain. And I had this comment once. I was training at this gym and I was training my son, my oldest boy. He was 14. He started getting into the gym, wanted to train. So I was training him. And I'm like crop top and gym shorts or gym pants. And I like, matching outfits. I've always been like this, and it's a part of who I am, and I fucking love it, and I'm going to own it.
Whoop, whoop.
Right? Thank you. Woohoo! And you should be owning it too, ladies. Hello, and men, get in there. Wear what the fuck you want to wear. I'd have a lot of people that would say, "Oh my gosh, you're so game wearing that. Like that's so bright. You look like you're going to a rave or a fluoro disco." And I'm like, "Yeah, baby, we're going to do squats for days in this fucking fluoro outfit." But I, literally. But I remember once someone told me, they were like, "Oh, you know that people are talking about you at the gym about the things that you wear when you're with your boy, and they're saying that that's inappropriate. You shouldn't be wearing that." I just thought that I would let you know that people are saying that, and that cut me deep. I
Mm.
remember doing a Snapchat years. This was years ago, obviously. When I had Snapchat, I haven't had Snapchat for a long time, but I remember doing a Snapchat about it, and I was just like, I wonder what these people would think if they knew that he came out of my vagina. Like, fuck, holy shit. They're seeing, like, it's not okay. Like, and that's just the patriarchal conditioning, though, isn't it? It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, women have to dress a certain way. Or, I used to get a lot from women. You shouldn't be wearing that anymore. You're a mum.
Mhm. And,
What?
like, it's
What does that
and it's
mean?
yeah, it's so common and, like, because that's a contradiction, right? And contradictions we were literally speaking about this, me and you, maybe, like, a month ago. But,
Mm,
contradictions are a normal part of being a human being, right? Like, we are multifaceted, and most of us cannot hold contradictions, so therefore we can't show up in our fullness. So,
yeah.
like, contradiction is, like, you being a mum, but also showing up in these outfits where you feel sexy and vibrant and, like, energized and, like, flirty and fun and playful. You're like, "No, mums don't do that." Or it's like you being a personal trainer and then you walking out of the gym eating a bag of lollies or a chocolate bar. Or it's like you being a vegetarian and then every now and again you eat a piece of steak. People are like, "No, you can't do that." It's like, why? Because we've been conditioned that we have to fit in these little wee boxes and be this perfect little version of yourself. You're either this or that. You're not both. And a huge part of my healing was like allowing all the contradictions of me being like, yesterday this felt great, but today I'm doing this and this absolutely does not align, but it's who I am and it feels in alignment for me. And like holding myself in my fullness and letting all versions of myself be at play and for it to make no sense.
Mm,
But we are so deeply conditioned that you are either X or Y, right? You're not both. You're not you're not all of the things. You're not creative yet like intellectual. You're not like playful yet serious. You're not all of it, but you are all of it, but we've been taught that we're not all of it.
yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you put yourself in a box and then when you do something out of character, that is probably you being in your full expression, you're like, "Oh no, I
Mm.
don't."
Which plays a huge, huge impact. It has a huge impact on our ego and our personas. Where ego literally is our personality. Like, it is
Mhm.
who we think we are. The ego is attached to the identity of who we of our person, our human person. You take away the ego is like, whoa, what's happening?
Feels very unsafe.
Yeah, yeah, you feel very unsafe, but you are just letting go of that person and that identity, which just allows for such a bigger picture to be played out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think something so important to speak into is like, so although we've been sharing our stories and like how we've both struggled with food at times of our lives and struggled with body image at times of our lives, this is very normal and this is very intentional and this is happening for a reason, right? Women are placed at war with food, their bodies, and their power.
Yeah,
Right? It's a political thing. Dieting is a political thing.
yeah.
It's not just by chance. Right? It happens to ensure that you never connect with your power and your creativity and your purpose and your fullness. Right? How can you connect with your power if you're so consumed with like, oh my God, my body's horrible. What the fuck am I gonna eat today? Oh my gosh, I binged yesterday. Oh my gosh, I'm so hungry. Like, how can you focus and put your energy towards your purpose and your calling and helping humanity and being in your power if you are consumed with thoughts about your body and food?
Mm, mm. And what doesn't really help is a lot of women don't really understand that they're even giving compliments to other women and saying things like, "Oh, babe, your ass looks so good in that." Like, "Damn, girl, you look so good. Have you lost weight? Fuck, you look amazing." Or to guys, "You're looking so buff, bro." Or, "How wow, like, have you grown? Your muscles have grown." It's this ego boost, but unfortunately, it is really conditioning us to really look for that external validation, whether we're trying to or not. And I really feel that this is where it started for me as a teenager, when I was not seeking attention whatsoever. But as I said, no matter where I went or what I did, I was getting it. I was getting this attention. I thought I was an ugly duckling. Literally, it's what I thought. I was like when I was a little girl, I was like this ugly duckling, and then I grew into this woman. I never saw my worth. I never saw how beautiful I was, but yet everybody else did. All the girls hated me. All the boys wanted to fuck me. I didn't understand where it was coming from or what was happening, but I was slowly being conditioned to really start to like and to receive that attention. You know, like when I started doing bodybuilding within the first 12 months, because I was starting to do like I was starting to diet and I was changing everything. Whenever you go into any sort of body composition, your body will change the most within the first, I think it's 5 years of training, or it might be two. It's
Mhm.
really similar, a really small time frame. So you like smash out as hard as you can go within that time frame, right? Because the body's doing all of the things and figuring all of the things out. It's doing all of the things. And I remember getting so many compliments from people all around me, like, wow, do you train? And I'd be like, yeah, I'm a bodybuilder. Like it was just this label that I would then say, hey, I'm Dani and I'm a bodybuilder. And the reason that I would say that was because I was already getting this external validation that was feeding my ego without me wanting it and without me knowing that it was doing that. But it was doing that.
Yeah.
And then I would do it to other women and other men,
Mhm.
especially women though, because, girl power,
Yeah.
trying to build friendships in new towns and stuff. So it would be like, wow, babe, you look so great. Oh, does my bum look fat in this? And just like this consistent language.
Yeah, and it really fuels you to continue to restrict and push yourself in the gym and exercise excessively because you're gaining all this validation and attention,
Yeah.
which makes you feel loved, and we all want love.
Mm,
I can remember at my leanest, I got the most male attention, and
mm,
I had so much wounding around it because and I remember when I met my partner, he was like, "Whoa, you're such a bitch." He's like, "You always have a resting bitch face in the gym." And I said to him, "Yeah, because otherwise guys come and talk to me, and I don't want anyone to talk to me."
mm,
And so I think this also roots back to what my dad taught me about me, and I was like, "Everyone wants to fuck me." But it was really, really solidified when I got lean and when I started wearing less clothing. And so it's this piece of like the leaner I got, the more validation I got. So then the leaner I got. Like it's this cycle that feeds itself based off low self-worth and feeling not enough and needing validation from others rather than giving myself what I needed from within,
mm.
seeking it all outside of me.
Mm. And the problem is the leaner you are, the more unhappy you are. Not always. I don't wanna speak for everyone here, right? But majority of the time, the leaner you are, the more unhappy you are because you feel tired. You're energetically drained, right?
Yeah. Yeah. When you get to like, especially for a woman, like, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's
yeah.
like that
The amount
stage
of
lean.
that. Mm.
Yeah.
Mhm. For our
Yeah.
whole run properly.
Mhm. I can even remember being incredibly lean, like competing on stage, like having a six pack of abs and still hiding my body in certain ways or still wearing certain clothes and being like, no, too fat." And it wasn't actually about my body size. It was about the beliefs and like the relationship I had with myself
Yeah,
and how I saw myself. My vision of myself never changed, regardless of how my body looked. Mm.
yeah. I did this practice, I do practices all the time, but I did this really powerful practice a couple of days ago. It was a little body mirror work practice, and I was like fully naked, and I created a beautiful space, and I was like watching myself in the mirror and just like sensually dancing and touching my body, and it was so beautiful and it was so sacred. And I remember taking a photo, and I took a photo of myself, and for the very first time in my whole life, I did not pose for this photo.
Mm.
I'm almost 36.
I love that.
And I took the photo and I looked straight down at my belly, which was the only thing that was there was no sucking in. It was just a little bit rolled. And I went, I look like a fucking goddess. I was
Yes,
like,
you do.
wow, holy
Mhm.
shit. There's no six pack there. Like when I used to have a six pack, Mon, I used to clench my abs. If anyone looked at me, I'm like,
Yeah.
but again, that was attached to my self worth. My self worth was I'm not good enough. I'm too fat. I binge eat, binge and restrict. I have a whole heap of trauma. I don't even know that it's there. I can't feel it. I can't connect to my emotions. I don't know what to do with my emotions. I'm not loved. I'm all alone. All of these things that I used to tell myself in my mind.
Yeah.
And that was why that I do these things.
Yeah, and I think, like, being able to see what's there is so important, to see what's in the shadow that's leading to a lot of your destructive habits is important, and something, like, the listeners could do that I've done a lot in my lifetime is either sit in front of your mirror in a bikini or lingerie or naked and just sit there and notice and write down the thoughts that come up, because that will really allow you to see subconsciously the ways that you're speaking to yourself and the ways that you see yourself and, like, the beliefs that you have around your body.
Yeah. And not like consciously make lies up. Like,
Yeah.
I'm so beautiful, or I'm this, or I'm like not consciously doing that. Like, just sitting and being and allowing
Yeah.
thoughts that are already there to just flow out of the mind and write them on the paper. And then just have a look.
Mhm.
Yes, and notice and become aware of what those thoughts are and what are the things that you're really telling yourself. I look
Yeah.
so good today. My abs are this and that. My biceps look great. Okay, yeah, beautiful. But most of that, that's surface level, right?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you can look at your body and only see how shredded your biceps are, or how good your stomach looks, or how toned your legs are, like that's just all external. That
Mhm.
there's nothing internal happening there. There's no beauty. There's
Yeah.
no worth in that.
Yeah. And I think also, like, something that I didn't know, like, realize when I was stuck in, like, my binge eating, my overeating, and my restriction and all that is, like, to all of the patterns that we're doing that we want to get rid of and that are destructive, there's always a secondary gain towards every pattern that you're doing. So there's always actually a benefit that you're always gaining something from the patterns that you're doing. So maybe you're overeating, but what that overeating is doing is it's allowing you to suppress your stress or your loneliness or your sadness, and it's allowing you to cope with uncomfortable emotions. Or maybe you're overeating and it's and it's allowing you to avoid your childhood trauma. There's just always something that you're gaining. It could be reconfirming your beliefs. Like, it could be reconfirming that you believe you're not lovable. You believe you're not important. You believe you're not enough. There's, like, always these deeper layers that are in the shadows that we're often unaware of the reason why we are reaching for the food and over-consuming or under-consuming. And a huge piece for me is I believed I was not important and I did not matter. Right? Growing up in a big family, quite hard to get acknowledgement sometimes. And so I grew up with a huge wound around I'm not important and I do not matter. So every time that was triggered in my life as an adult or in my teenage years, I consumed food. Create safety, it's familiar. Suppress the emotions that are coming up. And then afterwards, I would regret it and, like, hate myself and punish myself with excessive exercise.
And it comes in this habit loop. It comes in
Mhm.
a habit loop. The binge eat, the body shame, the shame and the guilt for doing it, the restrict, the over exercise, or no exercise at all, hide, and then it would all happen all over again, right?
Yeah.
But there's also always something that's being suppressed here, something that the body doesn't want to feel or the mind doesn't want to feel. I had a conversation with my 10-year-old not that long ago about binge eating, a very common um, coping mechanism for children with ADHD is binge eating, and whether that's a coping mechanism or a sugar addiction, which is both, because when you have ADHD, they are expending a lot more energy than what they get in, and they have less serotonin in their body. Their brain is because some of the chemicals in their brain are not wired as a regular neurotypical brain, right? So it's a little bit slower that they're not receiving the serotonin in their body. So it's so much easier to just go and eat all the sugar. And I've been through a battle with my daughter and my youngest boy with ADHD and doing many different things. Not diets, I'll take that back, but healthy eating, conscious eating, not eating specific foods, trialing different foods, and not buying too much junk food, but still allowing the junk food because I don't want to tell them that they can't have it, and all of these things. And I've found for both of my two children in particular that no matter what I would do, whether I would have a cupboard half full of junk food or no junk food at all, they're still going to find some way or another once it comes in the house to eat it all in one sitting or two sittings. And it's been a lot to really sit down and piece out what's actually going on. But what's really beautiful is I'm much more conscious now with parenting my little man than what I was with my daughter, right, at that age. So I had a conversation with my youngest boy a little while ago, um, literally a week ago, about what's coming up for him in order for him to want to eat all of the food straight away. And this is not necessarily just sugary foods either. This will be like, we'll buy a bag of seaweed, which comes with 8 packets. And, I'll go to look in the cupboard like 3 or 4 hours later, and there'll be 5 packets gone already. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on here, buddy? And he turned around and said to me, this is like fucking mind blowing. He's 10. He turned around and said to me, he said, I just don't know. And I was like, no, no, no. Think about it. What's really going on for you to reach for that food? And he said to me, when I play the game, I feel really stressed. And then I just go run downstairs, and as soon as you leave, I'll run downstairs and I'll bring it upstairs because I know that I'll be stressed. So I'll eat it. And I went and
Wow.
celebrated the shit out of him, and I was like, "Wow, you are incredible." I was like, "Holy moly, you are the best. You understand that you're stressed." I was like, "Wow, that's incredible." And he was like, "Oh, thank you." And we do like this fist pump thing. So we did like this fist pump thing, and I'm like celebrating him, and I'm like, "Right, now that we have that awareness, what do you think that we could do instead?"
Mm,
Right? But most children aren't being taught this. I
yeah.
wasn't taught this. I didn't teach my older two children this. I do now, but like we're not taught these things. And just imagine how things would change if just we could become aware of this now, whether we're 60 and we're listening to this podcast, or, whether you're 15 and listening to this podcast. I trust that it will inspire you in one way to just get a little bit curious to what emotions are coming up, or what are you feeling in your
Mhm.
body that makes you wear the baggy clothes, or that makes you wear the clothes, or that makes you say all these things about yourself that are unkind, or
Yeah.
that makes you spiritually bypass things by toxic positivity and saying, I am beautiful, I am amazing, when you don't believe it, sister or brother, well, what makes you want to just sit and suppress and binge, or just even not even binge, but just go to food when you sit down to watch a movie? Why is that? Is that a habit? That's okay. Let's look at that habit. But or is there a suppression? Like, is there a bigger problem here?
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I also think that piece with Kane is a testament to how incredible you are as a mum, and I just want to celebrate you in that.
Totally receiving all of that. Thank you.
And something that I really I did is so I actually healed my relationship with food by myself. I read a lot of books. I learned a lot of stuff. I was like, I cannot keep living like this. I was pretty done. And something that really helped me along my journey was if I wanted to overeat, because I personally struggled with binge eating. That was what I struggled with the most. So over consuming food. if I wanted to binge eat, I would either, if I had the willingness and the strength, I would pause before and I would journal and I would be like, what's happened before? Like before I felt like eating, what happened before? What emotion am I feeling? Why am I feeling this? And what need is not being met? Because there's a need within me that is not being met. And if I couldn't do that, I would do it afterwards, right? So maybe I'll binge and then I'll journal afterwards and be like, what happened before I binge? Right? Why did I binge? What stories was I telling myself? What needs not being met? And I started to see patterns. And I was like, oh, every time this happens at work, I overeat. Oh, every time my parents say this about me, I overeat. Every time my partner does this, I overeat. And I started to understand my eating patterns and the emotions that were linked with my eating. And I started to honestly be able to like predict it and be like, oh, okay, this pattern, because you bring conscious awareness to it, it's no longer in your unconscious. You're like, oh, this pattern's coming up. Oh, I see why. I know what I need now because I've journaled about it 100 times and I can give myself that need. And it was such a helpful piece of, it took time and I didn't always get it right, but I started to deeply understand myself and my patterns. And I started to trust myself. I was like, okay, so I'm actually not going to reach for food. They got to a point where I was like, I don't need food anymore. I can hold myself through this. And it was just such a powerful task and tool that I use consistently. And it was the same with triggers. If I was triggered, I would use the same journaling prompts to see what was arising and understand my patterns and what was actually there that I wasn't seeing.
I'm just in complete awe of you right now, Mon. I didn't know that you did that on your own. And that's just really fucking incredible.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
If anyone like needs recommendations, I really recommend like Janine Roth, all her books. All her books are incredible.
mm,
They really helped me. I didn't find any podcasts that helped me. It was honestly reading and
mm.
doing the exercises in the books and having compassion every time I fucked up.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
saw different so I did a few things because my eating disorder got quite extreme that I ended up developing bulimia. And it was extreme. Fuck, man. Like I would sit and I would eat up to 10,000 calories in one sitting and then go and throw it all back up. And I'd be in the toilet for ages and ages, crying and begging, like taking laxatives as well because I couldn't weigh in a little bit heavier the next day and I needed to look shredded for my photos and like it got really bad. Like, oh my gosh, I was in such a bad place. And so I was in such a place of desperation at this point. So for me, healing that relationship with food, which I'm still always doing, right? We're always doing this. I still notice there's little pieces that come up for me every once in a while, and I'll be like, "Oh, what's that about, Danny? Let's sit down and have a discussion about that, or let's feel into this and move our body in a way that feels good." But yeah, for me, I sought out a like an eating disorder psychiatrist, and I worked with them for a little while. I also sought out two different coaches at different intervals, and yeah, they helped extremely. But for me, it was once I understood why I was binging and I understood that the relationship that I had with my body was unhealthy and fucking bad and horrible, but I didn't know that I had it. Once I understood that and I started to understand my traumas and all of the external things that were happening on the outside, that's what woke me up and I went, "Oh, it's got nothing to do with the food." And yeah, again, it was that self-healing and that consistent of sitting down and understanding what that belief really was, and what was really going on at that time.
Mm. And do you feel that a lot of your eating habits were due to repression and suppression of emotions and trauma?
Absolutely.
Like 100%?
100%. Like, for me, they were absolutely.
Same,
Yeah,
same.
yeah. I would go to the gym. I would, like, go to the gym and I would like, there would be something that happened, like, for example, someone would look at me and I was feeling down and down about myself anyway, and then someone would look at me and then I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, they're feeding that. They know," or whatever that may be, that feeling of unworthiness, and then I would then go home and binge, eat and restrict.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it was this continuous vicious cycle. Um, yeah, but some of it had to do, like, I really feel that some of it had to do, like, especially with body image, with the patriarchal conditioning and the colonism and everything, like keep women suppressed and turning women against themselves, turning women against each other. That
yeah.
played a huge role in that as well. Absolutely,
Yeah, there's literally a certain way that we should look, right?
absolutely.
And if you don't, you gain judgment and you kind of get bullied for it.
Mm,
And I feel like even when you do look like what we've been taught we should look like, these little petite little doll things, even when you do look that way, most of the time, women that look that way don't feel safe looking that way.
mm.
And you still don't feel good enough.
Yeah, even if you look like the girl, even if you look very similar to the girl next to you, who's, got heaps of Botox and got her lips done, and everyone's getting around the same sizes, and everyone's training the same and growing their booties and, getting their lashes and doing their hair extensions and all the makeup. And that's not bad and wrong. That
No.
is not bad and wrong and not what I'm saying. However, even if you look like that girl in the magazine or that girl that's right next to you, you still don't feel
No.
beautiful within, right?
Yeah, and like there's a huge piece that I'm processing at the moment that's coming up for me, and I'm just going to speak into it. So on social media, it's very easy to scroll and think that people are really put together, are doing well, are thriving, like they're living their best life, they've fucking got it all sorted out. Like it's so easy to scroll and be like, what is wrong with me? And I feel that hugely when it comes to like body image and food and the way that you're living. So many people on there pretend like they have got it all figured out, but they don't. And I
Mm,
think as sisters, especially as women, and I say this for men as well, but there's so much power in authenticity and being like, you know what? I'm struggling. I'm
yeah,
struggling with my food. I
yeah,
don't love my body. Or like I'm learning to love my body and this is what I'm doing. Or just like showing up in your fullness. Something that really helped me along my journey was actually telling my partner and being like, babe, I am struggling with my relationship with food. Can you help me? Can I tell you when I'm triggered? Can you hold me?
it's really beautiful that you mentioned that because I did the same thing with my older two kids, with my teenagers at the time, and I eventually told them that I had an eating disorder, and I would tell them when I was feeling triggered. So I really brought them in with that towards the end, which was really beautiful because it was really great for healing, but also good for the other people around you to understand what's actually happening.
Yeah. And asking for help.
Yeah.
Like community and like, because in our friendship, I've really learned the power of like vulnerability and asking for help. But same in my relationship with my partner is like, you actually don't have to struggle alone. And maybe you've been brought up in a way that you think that you do and you have to keep it all in. And maybe it wasn't safe to share emotions. And I understand that and I hold you with so much love in that. But know that that's not the truth, that you can reach out and that as soon as you do, a fucking weight will come off your shoulders.
Yeah.
And you will have like a hand to grab onto in moments where you feel weak to help pull you up and out.
And also being really mindful who you reach out to help for as well. I remember having a conversation. I was doing steps with a friend and having a conversation. It was the very first time I told anyone that I had an eating disorder. I was like, I think there's something wrong with me. I have been binging and throwing up, and I was crying as I was talking to her about it. And, God bless her beautiful soul. But her initial response was, oh, yeah, but isn't everyone doing that around this, like, this many weeks out anyway. Like it's just normal. That's okay. You know, I do. I have a binge. You know, I binge eat all of the time, and it really normalized that for me. But you know, for someone that may be their permission slip to keep going. I just want
Yeah.
to say that that is not okay. Um, and there is life on the other side of that. And for me, that was my key drop point moment that I went, holy fuck, there's something, I need help. This is not normal. And if this is normal, I don't want to be normal. I don't want this for me. I want more for
Mhm.
me. And that was when I then reached out, literally went home that like from that walk and started, yeah, reaching out to mentors, and was like, right, what do I need, what do I do? And then I did all of the things, like everything I
Mhm.
could possibly go, put my foot in every avenue. And that's why I got so much success really quickly, because I was like, this is done for me, this is not normal, and I'm not going to normalize this. So just, if you are listening to this podcast and you know you do feel that this is something that you may struggle with, knowing that and this just goes the same with body image as well, if other women are saying things about their body as well. And I know it might be really hard to decipher that, but know that that is not normal. That is not normal. And if it is normal, fuck normal. We don't want normal, right? You're listening to this podcast, let's get woo woo. You don't want normal. You're not
Yeah.
here for that. You're here for expansion. You're here for better. You're here for love. You're here for all of the things
Mhm.
like that, and to know that that's what we're here for.
Yeah, and if you don't have someone that you feel safe enough to talk to about this, getting help and asking a professional is a brilliant idea and something I would so highly recommend.
Yeah.
Like, only 1 in 10 women get help with their eating disorders. So
Mhm.
most women live their whole lives like that, and you don't have to. You really don't have to, and you have the strength not to. I know you do. And something I couldn't have fathomed back in my days of binge eating is feeling the way I do today. Honestly, I didn't know that I could love myself. I didn't know that I could honor myself and feel beautiful and healthy and energized and live in such deep fulfillment like I do today, like in my body and in the way I'm eating. It's not a way that I thought I could ever feel, and it's not normalized. Like, let's be honest, it's not normalized.
Mm.
And it's hard to actually bring language to explain how I feel today. Cause like, how do you explain it? How we feel in our bodies? Like, it's just, it's really upsetting that it's so rare.
Mm. Yeah, and I can second that. I can second that, and I can, yeah, just bring light to the feeling that having a beautiful, loving relationship with self, with body, with pleasure, with food, like it's actually available. Like it truly, truly is, you know. Yeah, it's just incredible. And I just wish this for every woman.
Yeah, me too, sister. Me too.
Mm.
Mm.
I have a really beautiful poem that I would love to end today's podcast with. I feel like it really ties in really well with what we've just spoken about. And for all of you beautiful, amazing listeners, I ask you either just drop into your heart or close down your eyes and just allow this to be anchored in. It's a poem that I wrote naked in ritual to myself, and I want you to be able to feel this too. Dear me, I forgive you for all the times I let you down, all the times I looked at your body and frowned, wished for more than I was, doing things to gain attention just because I desired to be loved, deserved to be loved. You see, it was within me all along. I see now. All the times I posed for the perfect photo. All the times I held in my stomach so it looked flatter. All the times I covered up my beautiful face with makeup, splatter, splatter. You see, I crave to be like the girls in the magazines, the ones on the movies with perfect hair to fit in. Thanks to the patriarchy, it's really not that fair. For they teach us we are not enough. We are all training our bodies until they're sore, pumping our lips and face full of toxins galore. Dear me, I no longer will change my appearance to be like a look-alike. Anything that's not me or feels good for me is out of sight. Here's to the messy and wild, authentic and free. I accept all of me. Dear me, I forgive you.
Mm, that was so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
I trust that if this podcast has inspired you by any way, please share it, give us a 5-star rating, and post it on your stories and tag us if you feel called. We
We
love
love you.
you.